In this demo, let's see how to scale Docker containers using Docker Swarm. Though Docker Swarm will work perfectly with one node, we will show the demo with 3 different nodes. Each node has Ubuntu installed and configured. So if you go to Hyper-V Manager, and all the 3 Ubuntu systems are configured the same way, the only things I change is the host name, which will be called host node 1 for the first one, node 2 for the second, and node 3 for the third one. And I also made the IP address static. So the first one will be 110, the second will be 111, and the third node will be 112. So this way we can easily access the systems using SSH. So if you type the host name on the node 3, you're going to get node 3. And also OpenSSH is installed on all 3 systems. Now the next step is to install Docker. So the easiest way to install Docker on Ubuntu system is to go to get.docker.com and just copy the first line and execute the script using sh. And do the same thing on all the 3 systems, and you should have Docker up and running. So after running those scripts, just type in Docker just to make sure it's working. And let's also check it on node 3. Looks like everything is working fine. Now let's open the bash shell, which is running on Windows system. It's pretty cool because we don't have to use PuTTY. And let me change the font a bit so it's easy to see. So now let's log on to the node 1, which will be on IP address 110. And we will open another bash shell for node 2. And we will also do the same thing for node 3. So node 1 will be called, or we will be using node 1 as a manager node. So that will be where all the logic will be going on. So that is where all the orchestration, which decides where each container runs, is typically on the manager. So the worker nodes typically executes the containers. It is also possible to run containers on manager, but typically, all the containers will be run on the worker nodes. So let's log into the last system, and we should be ready for the demo. Let's also do sudo bash to become a root user. And it will prompt for the password. If you type the password, you become root. And I already did that on node 2 and node 3. Let's also confirm using whoami command, and it says root. Let's go to node 1 and type docker info. This will show the current state of Docker Swarm. So if you scroll up a bit, you can see Docker Swarm is inactive. So to make it active, all you have to do is Docker Swarm init. So this will make this node as manager. It will also give you a token which you can use on the worker nodes to join the swarm. So if you forget or miss the screen, you can easily get this token by going to join token command. So all you have to do is do Docker Swarm join token, and if you press enter, it will tell you the options. And you can type worker if you want to join workers to the swarm, and manager if you want managers. So let's copy this worker join tokens from other nodes. So right now, if you do a node ls, there is only one node as part of the swarm, and it's a leader. So let's copy the token on node 3, and it says it join. Let's do the same on node 2. Copy the same string, and you can do this in any number of nodes. So they will all become a part of the swarm. Now if you do the node ls, you see 3 nodes, with one being the active one, which is the manager. The other 2 nodes are the worker nodes. And you will get an error if you try to do node ls on node 2 because it is a worker node and it doesn't have the privilege. Now that we have everything we need, let's instantiate some containers and see how it works in Docker Swarm. Let's play with a known container called NGINX, which is a reverse proxy, and it can be easily found in the Docker Hub. So in order to create a service, all you have to do is Docker, and I'm doing this in the node 1. So you have to do Docker service. You can create the service and you can give a name for it. We'll just call it NGINX, and we have to do port forwarding. So we can say we want to port forward 8080, which is on the host, to port 80. So anything that comes to port 8080 on this Linux node 1 will be forwarded to port 80 on the container. And we should also mention the name of the container, so which is NGINX. So it did create an instance and it returned us a service ID. And if we do Docker service ls, you should see there is 1 of 1 instance or 1 container launched at this time. And let's open a Chrome, and the node 1 is on IP address 10.0.1.110, and if you go to port 8080, you can see NGINX is up and running, right? And the cool thing is we just installed it on 110, right? So let's say, but we know there is node 2 and node 3. The magic of Docker Swarm that it makes this visible on all other systems. So all the 3 nodes that are part of Docker Swarm will get this port exposed. So the port 8080 will be exposed on all different nodes. So for example, if I do like 11, you get the same result, and if you go to 12, you get the same result. So this is the beauty of Docker Swarm. So you just did it in the manager, and you get like scalability on all these three different systems. So imagine if you have a DNS, and if you can do a round robin between 3 different IPs, you can have a load balancer, and you can also have multiple containers at the same time. So let's also do something more fancy. So now we have 1 replica running, right? So let's scale this. So the easiest way to scale this is Docker service, and if you press enter, there is something called scale. So just press the up arrow and scale, and we call this service NGINX. So you can just press tab and you can say 10 instances. So once you do that, it says NGINX scale to 10, right? You won't see the difference visually, but if you do Docker service PS, you will know all the 10 instances, which is NGINX. So you see there is node 3, node 1, node 2. So we have like 10 different containers are launched in different nodes, and Docker Swarm takes care of where each one gets loaded. In order to visualize these containers in a different way, let's download another container called Visualizer. Visualizer is a nice little utility, and which will show how many nodes we have and what containers are running in which node. So in order to download that, let's go to Docker Hub and see. We need to get some commands from there. So let's go to hub.docker.com and type in Visualizer. Many different people have contributed and have different versions of it, and I've used this one and it seems to be pretty reliable. So let's try to play with this one. So they also have instructions how to create a service, and so it forwards port 8080 to port 8080 in the container. So in our case, we will use a different port because we are already using port 8080 for our NGINX server. It also has the role of the manager, so it has visibility into all other worker nodes, so it can see what instances or containers are running on the worker nodes. So let's copy this in a text file, and we will change the port, and then we will execute on our manager node. So let's use port 5555. So port 555 on our host is going to be forwarded to port 8080 on our container. So let's paste this here. So after pasting, let's press enter. And so it created a container and it's running here. So, and again, we're using port 5555. So let's open our browser and go to, this is running on 110, right? So let's 110. It should work on any other IP wherever these nodes are, but we will just use 110. Okay, cool. So now we have a visual representation of all the nodes that are running in our system. So we have 3 nodes. Each node has close to 2 gigs of RAM, and we have like 4 containers running in node 1, 4 containers running in node 2, and 3 are running in node 3, right? And let's try to show this in real time. So let's scale it down to 2 nodes, for example. So the way to do is Docker service, and if you press enter, there is a thing called scale. So you can scale, and you have to type in the name of our service, which is NGINX, and then you can say 3. And keep watching. As soon as I press enter, this will change in real time. So the Docker manager, so as soon as I press that, we have 3 instances of NGINX, and this VIS is nothing but for this particular container. So you can see how easy it is to scale up and down using Docker Swarm, and you can run like thousands of instances using this model. And you can also run like load balancers, and you can also run database services in its own cluster. And I mean, your imagination and creativity can come into play when you're designing your systems. Let's for fun, let's also scale it again to like say 100, and see how fast it is to scale. If it says red, it's currently launching all the containers, and Docker Swarm will make sure that it will run. So for example, if you do service ls, it says 84 of 100 at this time, and then we have this viz, which is 1 of 1. So if I refresh it again, you will see 100 of 100, which means we have all the 100 containers running in real time, right? So let's scale it back down. We don't need this many instances, and let's make it 6. Again, keep watching this graph very closely. So as soon as I press enter, you have only 6 instances of NGINX running. So let's launch Apache web server, for example. Say you want to launch Apache, and the name Apache in Docker Hub is called HTTPD. So you can create another instance called minus, and we can call it Apache, and then we can use port let's say 666 or 8888 to port 80. Okay, and the name of like I said, it's called HTTPD, and at this time we're using only one instance of Apache, and Docker Swarm will decide where to launch this. So watch your visual representation on the left to see where it's launching it. And it launched it, and so it is still red. it should it will take few seconds before it's fully launched, right? And you can also do this command, and you see 1 of 1. So currently it's launched, and you can also see that green light means Apache is launched. So let's verify that by going to a browser, and it's running on port 8888, correct? So let's do port, and like I said, you can go to any IP, either 110, 111 or 112, and you can go to 8888 and you should see Apache running. So this is how, let's also do one more thing before we wrap this video, and let's scale Apache, and watch this visualizer, okay? So again, it's Docker swarm scale, it's service, and then if you press Apache, you can say you want 20 instances of Apache. So that's pretty much it. And again, Docker will decide where to launch these, and it uses different algorithms to find the right place to launch, right node. And there you go, and it's slowly launching all the different instances. Imagine in a traditional model, to do this kind of scaling up and down, it will take a few hours. And but Docker Swarm takes care of all these operational issues and makes it a lot easier for us. Anyway, I was trying to play with this Docker Swarm for some security research, and I thought this will be something interesting for a lot of people out there. And if you're interested, let me know, and please feel free to leave some comments so I can add more videos if you're interested. Okay, thank you, until next time.